of lawyers, led by none other than the Senator of Siaya, James Agido Orengo. We are confident that through this competent team, we are going to succeed. Reggae is coming back, and we are going to make it to Canaan.
All right, that is Raila Odinga, the ODM party leader, as well as Senator of Siaya, James Orengo, speaking about what is just about to begin in the next less than 2 hours, because the Court of Appeal will begin the hearing of that matter. We may not go into the merits or demerits of the case, as Wakili Nyokabe would say, but now that we are where we are, Senator Mora, I don't know, now what should you be expecting, and especially the fact that there still appears that the BBI proponents are still banking on this. What should happen based on the possibilities that the Court of Appeal may agree with the appellants or may disagree with them? Thereafter, there may be another appeal at the Supreme Court. Whatever happens, how does that affect the stability of the country, and especially towards the 2022 general election?
Yeah, thank you very much. Maybe Sam, allow me just to make a comment about the roles of the Member of Parliament, then I come to that. And the problem we have with our country is that we married two things: representation and development allocation for money. I wish those two were separated, so that you don't have to have a constituency for you to get CDF, to get the number of policemen into the service, the military positions. That would have really helped, because that is the problem now you see with everybody wanting to have a representation in Parliament. And as Priscilla said, Ruiru deserves 7 members of Parliament. If you have one person representing, and they are the ones also sharing CDF, it becomes a whole problem. So I think that's something we should have actually gotten right. Separate the two, maybe have resources administratively, but because we mistrust each other so much, I think you have to have a member of Parliament who also comes with the kit. In any case, that's why people are elected. Now, but coming now to the issue of BBI, there is a whole issue of timelines, I think, for me. Leave alone the argument of whether it is good or bad, because according to the earlier BBI timelines, by June, then there should have been a referendum. Now, June has gone. Today is 29th of June. Mm-hmm. If this were to take another 1 month at least 1 month, then you are talking about the whole of July, because we are basically 1 day to July. And then after that, then whatever the outcome, either way, it can go either way, as the judges say. It means that there will be a Supreme Court, not unless there is a mischief, where then if you quickly get a favorable ruling, you go ahead and implement, so that any appeal at the Supreme Court becomes nugatory. And that, I suspect, could be why Prime Minister Raila Odinga could be saying the reggae will come. Otherwise, to have a referendum in the year, 1 year before election, or less than a year before election, Sam, I think, is that really fair for this country? I mean, is it the right kind of environment that we'd want to have? So we need to ask ourselves this question, devoid of political persuasions, so that then we move forward. The other issue that, of course, is very, very important is whether, indeed, based on the long ruling of the High Court, and especially the argument around the basic structure, whether really BBI is redeemable in terms of how the judges are going to argue, and that we cannot second guess. It is up to the judges to make that determination. It is up to the appellants to actually also argue their case. So let us wait. What I am really happy about, Sam, is the fact that now people have confidence that they can get an alternative in the judiciary. And I think that is what the 2010 Constitution so required, so that you have the independence of the three arms of government, and Kenya can have a robust debate, so that everybody can be under the law, okay, and not equal to the law. Yeah. Okay,
and Senator Kasanga, you have been writing quite a bit. I hope we get enough time for you to say those great things, but still, the IEBC says that it's not possible to review the boundaries. Remember that they were supposed to review between the 8th and the 12th year. That should have been 2020 and 2024. Now they're saying it's not practical for them to go into that at a time that they will be preparing for an election. Does this therefore kill the dream of reviewing the Constitution to provide for 70 new constituencies, which IEBC says even if that was to be done, then it would be very difficult? I know Chairman Ofule Chebukati said that he cannot start planning on a matter that is already before court. But does that kill the prospects of BBI?
First and foremost is to answer you that no, I don't think it will kill the prospects of BBI. But let me also just address your first question to Senator Mwaura. And I have to appreciate being a Kenyan today. Because what Kenyans have been is pace setters, we are trend setters. What is happening right now in the courts is definitely unprecedented in the region. It is a wonderful thing to see democracy at work in our country, to see the constitution at work in our country. It's beautiful. I'm waiting to see Twitter. Twitter is going to be on fire the next few days, you know, picking out on how the submissions and the arguments are going. And it's a beautiful time. It's really growth. And, you know, this is progressive. This is how we are moving forward a step at a time. And, you know, I have to say that, you know, all is well in Kenya so far. We should not be worried. We should not be scared. It is how to move forward, I believe, into more maturity into our political system. But, you know, me being a proponent of the BBI, of course, we are looking forward to a favorable ruling. But I remember when we were debating this in the House, you know, it was our hope that, you know, certain issues, of course, would be looked into. You know, the ground seems, you know, to be a little bit, you know, unbalanced when it comes to the BBI, and there's need to look into it if possible, and that if it allows. And if at all should the ruling be unfavorable, then it leaves us as Kenyans to ask ourselves then the issues that we were hoping to address in the BBI, that, you know, the current constitution, we can say maybe there were a bit of gaps here and there's a bit of tweaking that was required, then how will we achieve those things? You know, and specifically like the shared prosperity issues that, you know, we really want to push for, and, you know, the robustness that needs to be included in Parliament as we were discussing. You know, some of those structural changes that we are saying, yes, we have a good constitution, but there are some areas where we need to, you know, tighten a little bit for accountability and for this, and especially for the shared prosperity, that the national cake then can go equally to all the regions. How then will we address these issues should the ruling not be favorable? I think those are some of the conversations that we shall begin to see once we wait and see how the ruling is going to happen, and of course as we wait to see what should the matter move to the Supreme Court. And for the review of the boundaries, I don't think it will be an issue. I don't think it will stop anything. It may delay maybe the issue of the 70 constituencies. Again, there was an issue with the schedule of the constituencies. That is one of the things I'm sure will be addressed in the courts today, but I don't think it will be really an issue that can absolutely stop the BBI.
And Commissioner, because you've been quite supportive and had several contributions to this process, so if the Court of Appeal and eventually the Supreme Court deal a blow on the Building Bridges initiative, then how do we salvage the good things that may be contained in that process, especially if this is to happen after 2022?
I think that conversation will happen if both the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court do not agree that the BBI should proceed. But that's also a bit of a long shot, because what happens is judges don't quite have a law on political compromises. And so there's going to be a very intense conversation in this country as to the role of courts and the role of judges on compromises of this nature, like what we have of the handshake and then leading on to the BBI process. And you know, governance processes are for improvement. And I like what Kasanga is saying. It is true that we have a good constitution. That is not to be understated. But a good constitution must also relate to the country at hand. And there's a sense in which a presidential system, for diverse societies like ours, a top of two, there's a sense in which that is so exclusive. I don't even know how our future is going to be, and why we even went into this process. And you know, even why we have this presidential system and this constitution was a political compromise in Naivasha. So now we had one political compromise in Naivasha, which has caused us problems, and not just in Kenya. If you look at a lot of European countries, anybody who has tried a presidential system with a diverse society hasn't quite succeeded. Yes. In Africa here, it hasn't worked. Why? We don't know the future, whether it will work here in Kenya. It is already not working. We have just discussed parliament. We have discussed the executive and the top of two for a country as diverse as 45 communities. So something must give. And we are hoping that that is not going to be, you know, because all of the constitutional changes in Kenya have been after violence. 2A was removed. The multi-party system came after violence of Sabasaba clashes. So this was the one time that we're trying to do these things in peacetime and in conversation and following the same constitution. I'm very skeptical that all the judges will then agree not to allow this process to go on. There might be areas where, for example, the basic structure is affected, And this is also not going to be the end of litigation. This is the first litigation round. There could be other rounds of litigation around different things, because our own basic structure appears to be in the Constitution. We don't need the basic structure from India. Our basic structures appear to be in the same Constitution, in the sense of protected clauses. So it is an interesting time. Let's see how the Court of Appeal does. With the Supreme Court, the hope is that they can take the 14 days that they do for the presidential petition. And so by as early as August, we are sure on where this is going in terms of the court process. Okay. A parliamentary initiative is still up on the cards, because indeed there are good things. The entire parliamentary structure, issues around the resources and wealth, 35% to counties, the Ward Development Fund. For we in the two-thirds movement, also hoping that the two-thirds matters are corrected before we go into the election. The 70 constituencies, it is true IBC has a point, but also geospatial, things have also been developed a lot better using science and using systems. So it is no longer that boundary delimitation. You delimit now on the table, you don't have to really delimit on the ground. So we are hoping that a bit of speed.
Fortunately or unfortunately, Commissioner Nyokabi, yes, you may do that from the setup of a boardroom, but sure, the Constitution and laws may require you to
and you will do that. You will go to the ground, but that amount of time is not as much as what Legale, for example, needed. Okay. We are 10 years after Legale, so really this day and age, a process of delimitation should be a lot faster than it was at that time. Okay. But the point is, this side of the year, 2021, it will still be possible to do a referendum. Okay. The more doubts are the other side of the year, but this side of 2021, I think it should still be possible to do a referendum.
Honorable Nyonka, yes, one wonders, because there has been some voices saying that it may be necessary to delay the election of 2022, of course, met with a lot of contestation, people saying that you cannot try to alter what is fixed in the Constitution. But would it necessitate such, bearing in mind what is expected to happen with the Building Bridges Initiative appeal at the Court of Appeal and possibly at the Supreme Court?
Sam, that's a very good question. Let me tell you what I think. For me, I've never seen where we are as a do-or-die scenario. The truth is, we have been running with the new Constitution for the last 10 years. We have reached a stage where we are realizing gaps, and we are in a position where there are certain things which are making some of us very uncomfortable. The other day, Sam, when you had the president going to Kisumu during the Madaraka celebrations, and before, I think a day before that, there was a list of the stuff that the government was doing in Nyanza. And a lot of my friends were making noise saying, oh, my brother, why is it that everything has been taken to Nyanza? We are just being... I told them that's what the current Constitution does. The president has actually the absolute authority, and his deputy, to share whatever there is there. Isn't that something that should worry Kenyans? That a president who gets elected, and it doesn't have to be President Uhuru right now. It doesn't have to be Deputy President Ruto. Somebody can come in who is elected, and he has the capacity and capability.
But how do they do that while resources are shared through Parliament?
What if Parliament has got a majority from the president's party? Like it has been for the last, 10 years?
Isn't that Jubilee a failure of the Parliament?
It is a failure of your Constitution, which allows the winner to take it all. There is no clear... That's why we were saying, for me, BBI's most important aspect is to make sure that the resources are actually added onto the county governments, and those resources are devolved to the ward, so that then we can begin to solve the problems of this poverty we are dealing with. The problem right now, just the way you have resources at the national level, is the way the resources land at the governor's office. And the governor actually has, even when the bills, the acts of parliament which we've passed, on how the resources are going to be devolved into the county government, and how the governor and his administration are going to share those resources, the governor can actually decide not to take resources wherever, whichever place he wants, or people who didn't vote for him. So what we are saying, the critical issues that exist in this country that are controversial, that have made Kenyans, that are going to make our elections become a powder keg, shouldn't we seriously look at them? Shouldn't we be a people who are willing to say, why is it that in Kikuyu constituency, Kimani Ichung'wah has got 278,000 members of parliament, when somebody in Garissa has got only 6,000?
You mean registered voters or what?
Exactly, registered voters. Shouldn't we look at those things? I mean, is it fair to manage our country as if it does not matter how we share the resources, how we manage ourselves, and how we govern ourselves?
Oh, okay, I hear you.
And finally, the point I wanted to make is this. I hope that the judges will look at what is going to happen on this case that has been brought to court, on what is the most important aspect in our country, and that is public interest. It has nothing to do with morality and activism of trying to say, oh, you know, Kenya is a trailblazing country, which, yes, we are a trailblazing country, but you can have a trailblazing country which is going to burn itself several times before you come back to the table to discuss the same issues that we've had. What you have, the problems you have today, when the elections were taking place in the last 3 elections, have never been sorted out.
Honorable Nyoka, look at this. The High Court judgment was delivered on the 13th of May.
Yes.
That was in 2021.
Yes.
The hearing is beginning today. That's about 13th May. So that is 18 plus 29. How many are those? I think it's 47 days.
Yes.
Or whatever that is, 47 days. So it has taken 47 days for the Court of Appeal to start hearing a matter that was decided on 13th of May.
Yes.
They may take a month to give a judgment, so that takes you to about another 30 days, so that is 77. So call them 80 days. So if the Supreme Court is to take a further 80 days, or nearly 3 months, that is from September up to around November, then how does that affect the election of 2022? I know you asked the question actually and I didn't answer it. Let me answer you because it's a question that many people have been asking. Me, I'll tell you openly and sincerely what I feel. If it means these elections are postponed, I wouldn't give a damn. If it means we get 1 extra year, so be it. If the courts rule and say we can't have those elections, I also don't give a damn. As far as I'm concerned, this country is big enough for us as a people to be willing to discuss and debate these issues which are outstanding because we are going to go for elections. I can ask you today, the ruling class, the Kenyans who are in governing positions as we speak, the political party leaders and all of them, is there anybody who believes that the elections which are going to come are going to be free and fair? We don't even have the commissioners right now. All right? You have issues which were discussed from the Kriegler report. You bring them up to where we are today, and those issues are outstanding, and those issues, some of them have never been sorted out. Can't we sort that out? Okay. Senator Mora, without this confusion, and with or without the courts, there is that bit of confusion on what should happen. Should it trigger a conversation around holding the elections as per the Constitution, 9th of August 2022?
No. Personally, I think we should be very faithful to the Constitution in terms of the election state. You know, this idea of changing the Constitution to extend elections is not new, by the way, Sam. In the last parliament, Priscilla, you can remember, Aluma had a bill to change the elections from August to December.
They were changing, actually.
Yeah, it was actually very popular, but of course, it didn't see light of day. Members of parliament have this tendency of wanting to extend their tenure because people fear elections, and it is true because 70% of members of parliament don't come back. There is an issue that is also being raised about extending by 6 months if we are in war. Now, can you say we are in war right now? Can you use, for example, COVID-19 to say we are in war? And also, if that election was to happen, is it parliament or the presidential elections? You see, because it's parliament when it's in times of war. So I think personally I would want to dissuade this argument. Possibly the hidden card would be, you remember in 2010, there was a whole issue about when would be the next election. And Mombi, Majanja and Lenaola sat, and that they gave us 4th of March as the next election, as per their own interpretation. Otherwise, we would have gone to elections. Was it supposed to be August of 2012? There was either August of 2012 or August of 2013. Then we had 4th March. So I see that being like a leeway that would occasion, if at all there would be a change of the Constitution as at now. Because then it would be saying, what is the framework that we are using? But that again has to be canvassed in court, you can imagine. It will be a whole long process. So personally, what I would want to say is this. Yes, indeed, it is true. It is actually true that there are some elements within BBI that are right and that needs to be considered. possibly the issue of constituencies, in my opinion, much as it is very legitimate, and for me, I really champion for my people of Ruiru and any other populated constituencies, is that this was also not captured well in the BBI, because Article 89(4) was left out in terms of determining. I think they went to Article 89(7), if I'm not wrong. And in that even there were some errors in terms of the bill that may have been processed in either of the houses or even at the county assemblies. So that role is for IEBC. IEBC has pronounced itself on this issue some, but the political class has used it and the media to say that then IEBC wants a postponement of the elections in 2024. Of course, it would really serve the current political class.
Which media has said that the election should be postponed?
No, you're saying?
Which media has said that?
No, it was all over. It was a wash. It was a wash actually last week, to the extent that Chebukati had to come and clarify about the misinterpretation of his assertion. Actually, it is in the public domain. So what is happening therefore is that we need to be very careful in terms of this transition, because the political class, as I was putting across them, can be very confident to continue enjoying power right now until then the time that they can determine. But I would really want to caution that we need to be faithful to the Constitution, let the determination of the BBI happen. If Kenyans do accept the BBI through the referendum, and such a question arises, let it be determined then. But it should not be predetermined because of the exigencies of the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Senator Kasanga, I want us to close on this as we transition to the next topic. And for you, do you see any difficulty in holding the election as per schedule?
No, and there shouldn't be. In fact, I agree with Maura. We have to be really faithful to the Constitution. After all, we call ourselves civil. We call ourselves progressive. So we cannot behave, as leadership, we cannot behave as if another set of leadership cannot deliver constitutional changes. Actually, we should, let what is in the Constitution be. Let the courts have the freedom to make their determination, within their capacity, do their job. And let legislators, deliver the next election as should be, and all the other constitutional bodies that are mandated to do so. We should not interfere with what the Constitution envisions. But of course, I do have to say that it would be a missed opportunity if we don't get to have the constitutional amendments that we are hoping for. And it's unfortunate because of COVID and all these other things, the process was slower than maybe had been envisioned. And it's unfortunate. I call it a little...
Can they be pursued in the next parliament?
It should be. And that's what I was going to say. If at all we go for election before the constitutional amendments are made, it is the hope that Kenyans can continue with this very important national conversation. Because like Onyonka is saying, we do have issues that are unresolved. And how long are we going to keep, every electioneering period having these issues coming up? Like I keep repeating, for us, the shared prosperity is such an outstanding key issue. We can't always wait for the generosity of one leader to share national resources. We are tired of that, and we are a new generation of leaders coming in, and we are saying, we need this change, we need this change to happen. And unfortunately for us Kenyans, if at all we cross over to the next political cycle without this conversation happening, we're going to risk another protracted period of electioneering and demanding for change. And where is our economic recovery then going to come from? Already Kenyans are struggling economically, and I can assure you, there is no one who will come here with a good economic recovery system if our politics and our questions that have been outstanding are not resolved. We are lying to ourselves as Kenyans, and it's important that we put this, with the priority that then it deserves, if we are really going to go back to that economic prosperity which we enjoyed, some 8 to 10 years ago. So for me, it will be a missed opportunity if it doesn't happen.
All right, Senator. Yet all this is happening at a time. Yes, what is it?
Yeah, it is really burning because of the inclusion.
Okay, go ahead.
The two-thirds gender rule, honestly. You can't go to an election without solving that question. Otherwise, the other side of the election, we're going to have problems with a parliament that is not two-thirds compliant. Another Chief Justice will issue another advisory that parliament is unconstitutional. So it is urgent that some of these matters are resolved this side of the election.
But isn't it possible to, in the meantime, amend the Elections Act and the Political Parties Act to ensure that political parties are able to...
You have to create space. We have been through that question. The two-thirds, remember the Duale 1, Duale 2, Duale 3 bills? That question has been had. there must be some minimal constitutional reforms for the 2/3 gender rule to be fully incorporated. Yeah,
Okay.
Parliament, there is no other way of going in other than Article 97 making space, Article 98 making space in the Senate. So that has got to be done. If the BBI doesn't go through, then we have to go to now Kemunya Bill to try and resolve the 2/3 question.
Okay, all right. We want to take a short break because I was going to say that the opinion about the building bridges is as diverse as the political framework at the moment, and that's the conversation you talk about after the break. Is there an agenda, or it's just politics? That's the question you're asking, because all these political leaders are in meetings, rallies, and talking to the people. Is there any of them that has a solid agenda to resolve the challenges that Kenyans face today? After the break, stay tuned.